Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, and this is the Headlines and Tidbits podcast. Each episode in Headlines and Tidbits is divided into two parts. In the first part of the episode, I will introduce you to some unique, weird, scary, crazy headlines that I have found, and then tell you the story about the people or the incident behind the headline. In the second part of the episode, I will read you tidbits that I have found in the newspapers of the past. These could include divorce notices that could be a little scandalous at times, articles that are interesting, advertisements, or really just any small tidbit I found in a newspaper. So let's get started with today's headline. The headline comes from the Rocky Mountain newspaper in Denver, Colorado, and reads, "Will you sell your tongue? Missouri girl needs one and offers to buy it." This article is dated August 12th, 1911, and it definitely caught my eye. I mean, someone wants to buy a ton. That's crazy. That's not something you would expect to read in a newspaper. So let's figure out who this Missouri girl is. Her name is Inez Long, and she was born on December 21st, 1894 in Missouri. But her parents, they were married in Missouri on September 20th, 1891, and her family was just an average middle-class family. Her father owned a grocery store, and her mother worked at a local school. She had one sister, Agnes, who was born in 1898. And when Inez was 17 years old, she was visiting her aunt and uncle. They were on a road trip to Colorado when they had an accident in Missouri. Apparently, there was a boulder in the road, and the family wasn't able to avoid it, and the car struck the boulder. So Inez was thrown from the car, and she hit her head on the road and almost bit her tongue completely off. From what I read, when she got to the hospital, the doctors believed the only way to save her tongue was to graft a new piece to the torn part. So obviously the problem here is, where do you find a ton? Or even a piece of a ton? Her father told the doctors he would spare no expense and was willing to pay someone for their ton or a piece of their ton. So their solution was to advertise this in all the newspapers. And they did. For a couple of weeks, the family received letters and offers from people all over the country who were willing to part with a piece of their own ton. In fact, one man wrote in and said he would sell 1 inch of his ton for $30,000, which today is about $970,000. That's a lot of money, but I wouldn't do it. An article came out on August 19th, 1911 in the Cleburne Times from Cleburne, Texas, claiming that not one woman offered to sell her ton to Inez, but numerous men came forward willing to sell their ton. So I thought that was kind of an interesting little fact there. Apparently, though, the family was able to find a seller because according to an article that came out in the Kansas City Star on September 14th, 1911, she was fully healed. The headline stated, "Her ton has grown together again." So either she found someone willing to sell their ton or the doctor somehow fixed her own ton. I don't know. Inez, though, she would go on to work at a local college in the art department. I saw somewhere where she was an art editor. And she graduated from Warrensburg College and then became an art teacher at Minden High School in Missouri. On May 27th, 1917, Inez married Charles Albert Lee, and Charles happened to be Inez's second cousin twice removed. So there's that. But Charles, he graduated from the University of Missouri with a bachelor's of science in education. And one newspaper called Charles, quote, "a young man of sturdy qualities and will make good." So out of college, Charles accepted a principalship at Perryville High School in Perryville, Missouri. And later on in Charles' career, he actually became the superintendent of state schools in Missouri. Charles and Inez had 4 children together: Charles Jr., Robert Lloyd, and Gerald. Charles died in 1984 at the age of 93, and Inez died on January 1st, 1983 at the age of 88. From what I could tell and find, they seem to live a happy life together. I can't help but wonder about her ton, though. But that is our headline for today, and now we will move on to the tidbits portion of the episode. So the first tidbit that I have for you comes from the Denver Catholic Register, and it is dated January 10th, 1924, and it's an advertisement for a cemetery in Denver. And the cemetery is Mount Olivet Cemetery, and the advertisement reads, "Have you ordered your evergreen blanket yet?" So an evergreen blanket is a covering made from evergreen boughs that is placed on a grave to keep the deceased warm during the winter. When I first saw this ad, I thought that the evergreen blanket meant like the grass that eventually grows over your grave, but I just thought that was kind of an interesting ad to be placed in the paper asking you if you've ordered your evergreen blanket yet. Now, the next tidbit that I have for you, also from Denver, They had a portion in the Denver Post called emergency calls. And so whenever somebody would call into 911, it was recorded or written down, and then they would post, kind of a brief overview of why that person called 911 the next day in the newspaper. So this is dated June 26, 1966. And this is probably one of my favorite tidbits that I will ever talk about on this podcast. So the tidbit reads, 4:32 p.m., 1041 South Downing Street. Careless use of gasoline, slight damage to patio, and hamburgers. That just makes me laugh because they had to put the hamburger part in there. So obviously these people were having a barbecue and got a little carried away with their gasoline, but I love that hamburger part. So the next tidbit is from the Denver Rocky Mountain News, dated October 3rd, 1899. And the little headline reads, Fun in Justice Court. And so this is a reporting of an incident that happened in the Denver court. And so I'll go ahead and read this. The case of Miss Jessie McBreen against Robert Lamberton, who is charged with assault and battery, occupied the attention of Justice Mullins all day yesterday and was productive of no end of amusement. Lamberton is said to have informed Miss McBreen that she grows whiskers and should shave, and that her breath was bad. And so I don't know why these two were in court with each other. I have no idea. But anyways, I just thought that was really funny that they reported that in the paper. And for the last tidbit of the day, I'm actually going to read you an article titled Walk to Your Mills Like a Man. And this was published on February 8th, 1909 in the Evening News out of Michigan. So eat what you will and learn to enjoy food and to digest it. Here's the secret, and it's free. Make up your mind after reading this that you will let the next meal hold no terrors for you. You can enjoy it. You can digest it. All that is needed to give nature the juices she lacks, to give the stomach a chance to remove the terrible irritating acids, alkalis, and gases which turn food and nourishment. When a system is run down and depleted, it needs building up. Ashes won't rekindle a fire, and raw digestive fluids will not take proper juices from food, no matter how good the food is. Is this common sense? Men spend years and even life experimenting on the human system, what it lacks in disease and what it needs in perfection. This knowledge is known to every physician, or should be. Stewart's dyspepsia tablets are compressed natural vegetable and fruit essences, which, when mixed with the saliva of the mouth, go into the stomach, capable of digesting a full meal, and they digest it to the uttermost shred. Then, such a meal does a man good, and it gives to him the means to overcome stomach troubles. 40,000 physicians use these tablets and charge you for writing a testimonial of their merit, which they call a prescription. Any druggist in America or Canada will sell you a box for 50 cents. Every druggist carries them. Here's common sense again. Don't this tell you there is merit? Go to your druggist today, buy a package, and walk up to your mills knowing that they will not cause you pain. Send us your name and address, and we will send you a trial package by mail for free. Address, F.A. Stewart, number 150, Stewart Building, Marshall, Michigan. What I liked about this tidbit is the headline, Walk to Your Mills Like a Man. Oh, these old newspapers and their headlines are fantastic. Well, I hope you enjoyed exploring these headlines and tidbits with me, and I hope you come back to listen to more stories from newspapers of the past. See you next time.